You just hit play on Tech Vibe Radio. This is your front row seat to Pittsburgh's technology and innovation ecosystem. I'm your host, Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council and, of course, Tech Vibe Radio. So coming out of CES, it is clear the future of robotics and autonomy is accelerating fast, and Pittsburgh is right in the middle of it. And I am joined by Kevin Dowling of Innovation Works and the Robotics Factory to break down what really stood out at CES. We're talking about things from humanoids and autonomy to the components quietly powering the next wave of innovation. We also dig into what's ahead for the Robotics Factory in 2026, including new accelerator cohorts, expanded investment activity, and some big announcements on the horizon. So if you want your front row seat to where robotics is heading and how Pittsburgh is helping shape it, you got to keep on listening. Let's jump into the conversation with Kevin right now. So Kevin, I'm really psyched to have you hanging out with me here on Tech Vibe today. And, coming back from CES, I think our heads are still spinning a little bit because there is so much going on there. And I'm just excited to get more of your insight because I think when it comes to robotics and automation in Pittsburgh, I mean, you're one of our forefathers here without a doubt. And so I'm excited to get your insights as to what you saw at CES, the connections at Pittsburgh at CES that I saw, and just what's happening with the Robotics Factory. So I'm just glad to have a couple minutes of your time.
Oh, great. Well, thank you, Jonathan. There's so much that happened at CES, and I hadn't been there in a number of years. This was super high energy, and it has totally transformed from almost a purely gadget show,
Right.
consumer electronics. They don't even call themselves the Consumer Electronics Show anymore. It's just CES.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that change in branding now indicates, that they're doing other things, and it's become a mecca for people making big announcements and large corporate entities there beyond the LGs and the Samsungs and Sony's making big TVs, for example.
Right.
It's much, much more than that now. And you're starting to see the big trends in humanoids, autonomy, the quadrupeds, all of these robotic devices, and then components that were robotic. So a booth that might show only actuators, very cleverly designed, well-built, low-priced actuators, which is fueling this development of robots around the world today. And it was astonishing to me because as I've shared with others, I'm not a big fan of Vegas, and it's not my thing. How can I say that?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. It's okay. You can admit because I'm right there with you. I mean, I love going there to see our companies, to see the technology, but the town itself, I'm like, yeah, I could do without some of it.
Yeah. But I have to say, I started with the Eureka zone, or I forget what they call it, Eureka Park, which is a lot of the innovation over at the Venetian Hotel. And the Venetian has also built out its own expo center. It's not as large as the LVCC, but it's good sized. But it's the focus of innovation. So you got to see small companies going there. I met a Pittsburgh-based company I'd never heard of doing some work. They were sort of doing these blocks for controls and actuation.
That's what's so exciting to go with it. You can find something you didn't know existed and they're there because this is where everybody goes when they have a technology. And as you mentioned before, which is so interesting, is it's not just the actual finished product, it's some of the parts that go into the products. And that's where I think Pittsburgh has played such a strong role, is because we have some of those companies where we're kind of like Carnegie Robotics, when you see their vision system in a Brunswick yacht to help itself dock, right? And there's things to say, oh, that's Pittsburgh making that happen.
It was so interesting because when I went into the West Hall and a section with a lot of the larger booths with a lot to show, you had big companies. John Deere was there with one of the biggest combines they make set up as a booth.
Massive.
Caterpillar. Yes. Kubota also was highlighting, just to your point that you just made,
right,
highlighting Bloomfield's efforts mounted on one of their vehicles right there in the booth. It was amazing. I was over the moon with all that was going on. It was a much more, I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't diminish it, but more of a professional, mature approach to these things, but not boring at all, not staid. It was very exciting to all the conversations I had. People I bumped into, like Joe Forcash, who used to be at Caterpillar. He's now with another group, Applied Intuition, I believe, also doing a lot of autonomy. And so those connections that we've all made over the years here are spreading, and we're starting to see a lot of the influence from Pittsburgh spreading into these companies doing autonomy and robotics and sensing and so forth.
I ran into the same thing. We ran into the Oshkosh booth, And we had John Zuka there from Pittsburgh. They got like a 7 or 8 person engineering team here, around automation. And they're in Pittsburgh just because of that. And it's
Right.
it's great seeing that. Once again, people are rolling through there. They're seeing Oshkosh and they're seeing some of these massive vehicles and how they automate some of them. And they don't necessarily know that that happens because of the work in Pittsburgh. And that's why we get excited. The
Exactly.
tech council get on there, so we can say, yeah, it's Pittsburgh that's helping to do some of this. It's just so cool.
And I want to give a shout out to the PTC, Brian Kennedy especially, who organized an evening event on that Wednesday. We
Our
bumped into
tailgate.
each other there, but we didn't
Yes,
have
sir.
a lot of chance to talk. But I met people there from Pittsburgh that I've never met before.
Very cool.
An ophthalmologist from UTMC, for example, who was there
Exactly.
to look at a few things. It was amazing. I took, as I've mentioned just prior to this, I've taken many photographs, a few videos, I collected a lot of brochures, and I'm trying to complete a nice report, sort of
Awesome.
showing the status of what's happening. But it's going to take me a little bit of time to put it all together.
It's a lot to
So,
dive into because it is almost overwhelming when you go there, just the amount of stuff hitting you. But it seems like, I mean, you were there, you were mining away and finding some great stuff. I'm excited to see as you bring this report out, like just some of the connections you'll start building because you're always trying to connect our companies with opportunities and seeing where the next moves
absolutely,
are. So we
yeah.
were just so glad that you're able to be there and kind of be part of what we were doing down there as well, too, making Pittsburgh strong. So I'm hoping next year you're planning on going as well, because I know the Tech Council will be back there for sure, planning something fun.
That's
That's
great.
good.
I intend to be back there, and I'll focus again on the show, not on Vegas.
Yes.
So I always try to find a hotel that doesn't have a casino because I want quiet after a day of high stimulation.
Tell me when you find one of those, because like I hate having to walk through that like it's for everything.
Well, it's not too far from the convention center. It's a walking distance.
Okay.
I don't mean to make this an ad, but it was the Marriott
Oh, I've heard. Yeah,
Springhill
that's the one.
Suites.
Yeah, yeah. I remember
Yeah,
someone saying, I'm like, what? They don't have a casino? It's like, how is
yeah.
that possible? That's so funny. That's so funny. So glad you got to be there. This to me is very exciting. Like I said, I just love the idea of when we have folks like you who are doing so much to drive the growth of autonomy and robotics here, just connecting into this global scene is just so important. And so the Tech Council and myself, we couldn't be more thrilled. I'm just curious, like now that we're into 2026, which is blowing my mind, what's cooking in your neck of the woods? What's happening with the Robotics Factory,
Oh,
IW, and stuff like that? Because you guys are always, there's always a new cadre of companies coming through. You're trying to get these companies to the next level. What has you excited? What's going on, Kevin?
let me tell you all of the things that have me excited. One
Okay.
is on the investment side, we're continuing to make investments in regional companies.
Awesome.
The 9 or 10 county region around
Hmm.
Allegheny County and Pittsburgh. And we're successfully doing it. We've introduced a new, very transparent process and as to how that happens. So that's one big piece of it. That's really where Innovation Works began. And then the accelerators. Here's the exciting part.
Okay. Tell me.
We're going to be running in the next couple of weeks. We're starting the new cohort in all 4 accelerators, including the
Nice.
robotics accelerator, hardware, life sciences, and software. So
Good
over
Lord.
20 companies will
Awesome.
be
That's so
descending
exciting when you guys
upon
are
us.
cooking it. You're cooking. Oh, sorry.
Let's see, the CREATE program, which is part of the Robotics Factory efforts to
Mhm.
bring together companies, leading companies in innovation in that particular sector, let's say agriculture or
Yeah.
aviation, defense, and so forth, together with robotics entrepreneurs here in the region. And those have been very successful. We have a lot of post summit activities. Next week, I don't think I can be public about it quite yet, but
Okay.
in the next couple of weeks, and actually in early February, the first week of February, we will be announcing a really big ag event where we're going to be creating a robotics village here in Pennsylvania later
All
this
right.
year. So I'm looking
Okay.
forward to, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag at
No
this
worries,
point,
but
but
we got something to look forward to then. That's why I like talking to
absolutely.
guys like you, Kevin, because we get a little something to do.
And then the other main program we have in the factory is the SCALE program, which includes helping startups to make their prototypes and so forth. And our residency program is very successful. Anyone who has an entity, a company of some kind, even as an individual, you can come in and we'll train you and you'll be able to make almost anything you need here in our shop.
Love
And
this. Yeah.
we're continuing to improve our electronics area, the electromechanical work, new machines, upgraded machines. So there's a lot going on there as well.
Your
So
progress is
all
making
three
me
of
really excited. Yeah, because I think about when you guys first started this, you had the seeds and the core stuff, and every year you keep adapting and changing to meet the market needs, and then it's just creating. People are coming to it knowing that they can bring their ideas and try to scale these things into companies. and hopefully we
Oh,
see you
yeah.
at CES, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. In fact, several people were there from Pittsburgh from our previous accelerators. They weren't necessarily on display, but they were
Right.
scouting. They were looking at it.
That's what it's for.
And both you and I mean, I think independently, but we were walking many miles a day, 2.5 million square feet of booths and
Yes.
companies, and it was very exciting. I'm still on a high from that.
I don't even know if it's possible to actually see everything. It must have
I,
like some sort of like roller skates that were it's because it's like, man, there's a lot of space to cover there. But at the end of the day, it's great to be able to spend a few days out there, really gather as much as we can, be able to highlight the companies that are actually there selling product and connecting, looking at folks that are scouting, you going out there making connections and seeing everything there. We're looking at like the companies like the Kubotas and stuff that have Pittsburgh in their DNA and in their products and
right.
stuff. It's just, it's a great way to kick off the new year and get us
It,
fired up for
it
all the
really
work we got
is.
to do. Yeah.
One of the other reasons I don't want to forget to
Sure.
mention is that I was invited to be on a panel, which was called
Awesome.
Betting on Bots, which was about
Oh,
investing
excellent.
in
Tell me about that.
robotics.
Yeah. I'd love to learn more
We,
about
we,
that.
we had a great panel. The moderator was Maria was from World Economic Forum, the people who put on the
Mhm.
Davos thing. And she was
Yeah.
very good, asked great questions and was able on the fly. Many panels are, I'll just say, a little flat, but she was able to keep the conversation going and react to things that people say very quickly. And then on the panel, we had Warren Packard, who was starting his own thing. He's done quite a bit in investing in
Okay.
the past few years. Justin Krause, some of the Pittsburghers will know from JP Morgan. He's
Hmm.
now sort of being elevated within JP Morgan to run new programs. And Morgan, a gigantic investment bank, is now going to be flat out investing heavily in some of these new tech initiatives to the tune, I think this is public now, but over $1 trillion spread over 10 years. I mean, it's just phenomenal, the excitement around that.
See,
So
that is,
seeing
think about that.
investors,
More capital that's being dedicated just to these things. That just means more stuff can
exactly.
get funded, more innovation can happen, more products can be sold. It's just, it's pretty awesome.
Exactly. It's a worldwide stage now, and Pittsburgh's on it. So it's really exciting
100%.
to be part of that.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
so much fun catching up with you, Kevin. This is great stuff. I'm glad you had an awesome trip. I saw you briefly for like 10 seconds out the corner of my eye and I'm like, there's Kevin. And then you get pulled away. Ended up
right.
up the anyhow. So that's what we're doing right now. And that's just
Excellent.
amazing. So glad to have you fighting the good fight with us here at Pittsburgh to make Pittsburgh completely kick ass when it comes to all things robotics, automation, technology, you name it. So thanks for
Right.
hanging out with me, Kevin. You are the best.
Well, thank you. And thank you for all your efforts to publicize this and communicate the way many of us engineers cannot. But
We all got our
it
place
really
in the
helps.
ecosystem, right? That's
That's
for
right.
sure. No, I love it, Kevin. You are the best. Just remind everybody you want more content like this. Just keep on tuning in, keep on subscribing. It's been Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Tech Council.